Everything you need to know about startup founders and co-founders. This is part one. This is based on a great article on startups.com. I'm going to link it below in the description. Highly recommend you check it out. If you want to just go the too long did not read version and just spoil the video and read the article, go right ahead. More than happy to give that link to you. But I'm just going to share some of the points in the article. I'm going to walk you through all the different words, definitions, vocabulary, what have you, when it comes to founders and co-founders, and give you some things to think about, especially from my own experience and what I've seen as an advisor to hundreds of startups. I literally talk to 100 startups a week, and I have some lessons from experience from the multiple startups that I've done and the issues, the successes, trials, complete catastrophic failures that I've had with founders and co-founders. So let's get into it. And this is part one. The second part, I got some more good stuff for you. First off, what is a founder? The founder is the person who founds the company, who starts the company. And especially if you're a single person and you said, I'm going to start the company, the person that just gets things going and says, I started the company, you are the founder. All right. So what's the deal with co-founders? How does that work? Co-founders, well, they're the people that start the company with you. But sometimes startups recognize the founder as someone who says, I've started the company and then I brought someone on, and a co-founder is someone who takes equal responsibility, usually drops in an investment or quits their job or puts in equal amount of time or an equal level of responsibility to move the needle and plays a significant role, a role pretty much that if you didn't have that role, the company would fall apart or they would have to replace that role immediately. That's the co-founder. Imagine that I started a company and I said, I have founded this company. Here's my idea, edkang, edkang.io, and we're this tech company and I'm the founder. And then I invite you on and say, hey, we need someone who cares just as much about this as I do. And we start talking, and over months, you decide to take on just as much responsibility. Maybe you chunk in some money, you say, I'll pay for half the expenses, what have you. You have a skill set that complements mine, and I make you a co-founder. And then so what happens? Now, you may want to keep the title co-founder and founder separately. So I'd still be the founder and you would be a co-founder. But I like to just make everybody a co-founder. And it just gives everybody the same sense of equality. You got this team and things like that. Now, I have been in startups where someone says, I'm the founder, I earned it, I deserve the title. You can imagine how far that company went. And I've said, you go right on with your bad self. Titles hardly matter to me. They matter more to other people, but personally, I couldn't care less. We'll talk about this title, but I had another general partner say, Ed, you need to be the CEO. Will you be the CEO? Or you need to be the CEO of this venture? And I said, sure. And he paused for a second. Do you want to be the CEO? I said, I'll be whatever you want. Like, I'll be the janitor or whatever title is going to get us, not forever, but sure, I'll be the CEO. And some people are just like that. I'm personally like that. So I like to just respect and honor everybody. If you're co-founders, even though I may have been the primary founder, I just say we're all co-founders together and go there. But again, some people want to say I'm the founder, especially if you got different cap tables, different sets of ownership, et cetera. It's up to you to decide. It really starts to form the culture of your startup right out of the gate. So what about the CEO? Well, the CEO is someone who is the chief executive officer, is the chief in charge and the officer that makes the other officers execute, executive officer, and really is the primary leader in a company. When there's a board situation, the board looks to the CEO to carry out the agenda, to submit an agenda to be approved by the board. The board approves CEO. The CEO really works for that board, who represents the shareholders. So can the founder or co-founder be a CEO? 100% absolutely. So you got these compound titles, founder and CEO, co-founder and CEO, etc. Can a CEO not be a founder or co-founder? Absolutely. For example, the founder and the co-founder or the co-founders go and raise a significant round and they say, you know what? We're great at creating the product, but we really suck at running a company, which is something investors look at. And they say, let's bring in a CEO. And so they go interview and they bring in a CEO. And so the founder and the co-founder will have ownership in the company and be represented by the board. They may even sit on the board at that moment in time. And then the CEO then works for the board and executes, is the chief who executes and makes sure all the other officers execute as well, like the COO, CFO, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the CEO title. And again, when you're in early stage of startup, who cares? Like, who really cares? But at the same time, investors will care when you get to that place where you're presenting investors. They want to know how you're making decisions, what's the org chart, et cetera. But in the beginning, pretty much everybody plays every hat, every role, and titles don't really matter that much. So that's the reason you really focus on roles and responsibilities and title. Like, as far as I'm concerned, sometimes, some people divvy up. Like, if I'm working with someone, you be the CEO in this role and I'll be the CEO in that role, and you be the COO here and I'll be the CFO, but I need you to be the CFO, et cetera. And so it just becomes this hodgepodge. Doesn't really matter. But if you want to clarify in the org chart and you're looking to hire a CEO, just remember all the three of these can be different people and have a different set of responsibilities and rules of engagement. Now, what is a founding member? Well, this is just another title to add to someone to make them feel great as part of the team. So let's say you got a founder and a co-founder getting together, and then you decide to bring somebody on, but they don't have the same level of responsibility, ownership. Let's say they're not going to get shares, or let's say they're going to earn a few percent of shares, maybe 5% or 3% over a period of time, but they've been there from the beginning. You can give them the title founding member. So you can say, well, this person is the CMO, Chief Marketing Officer, and founding member, or founding member and CMO, whatever you want to call it. But that's just something to give a little credit, at least that's how I use it, to the people who've been there from the beginning. We're not talking about the first employees when you get money and you can hire someone with salary. I'm talking about someone who commits to the company before the company has raised money and has been there right from the beginning, who is invested probably with sweat equity, blood, sweat, and tears. That's what it takes. You give them the title founding member. That could be the core team, but they don't have the same level of ownership, let's say, in terms of the cap table. Maybe they haven't invested as much, etc. Can a founding member become a co-founder? Sure, you can do that as well. But it all depends. You've got all these titles to choose from. Then how do you pick those titles? So then now, how do you divide out who is the CMO, COO? Well, just go study the roles. And here's the dangerous thing. Okay, so what happens is, and this is talked about all the time on the Startup Therapy podcast there at startups.com, Will and Ryan Rattan talk about this all the time. They give this example of the CTO. So you're at the beginning stages of a company, and you say, all right, you're going to be the CTO, but you can't afford an actual CTO. Like, everyone's just kind of hacking their way. You're just like pirates. You got a dream, a vision, startups are in your blood. You go and you rent your parents' garage and you pay them a couple $100 a month and you put some tables and you start hacking away. Well, at a certain point in time, let's say your startup takes off and you start getting investment money, and now you got cybersecurity, you got storage, you got all these different things you have to program and code at a certain level, and you want to go hire a professional CTO, someone who is a software engineer, has all this experience, but isn't going to come and be part of the founding team, or doesn't want to be a co-founder, is just a hired person. You're just going to pay that person $250,000 a year to come in and be the CTO. Well, what happens to the co-founder who's been the CTO the whole time? Do they get elevated? Does that real CTO report to the co-founder of CTO? That's the reason titles are dangerous, right? And you want to hold them lightly. For example, I have no problems in being the CEO until someone comes over and is better than me, right? And that's the reason that I'll be the intern, but I don't care if I have the title or not. I'll be the founder and CEO, but I'll just be a co-founder. And I'll just stay the co-founder, and then they'll say, who's the CEO? Well, we're all kind of doing it by committee. It's by platoon, squad. We're a squad of CEOs. Everybody, you get it. Right in the beginning, everybody's a CEO until we find a CEO that will really fit in the role. Because I know personally, I'm a horrible CEO. I'm not good at being a CEO. I'm a great interim wartime CEO to turn things around, but I'm terrible at long-term CEO. So I don't even want the title. I don't go near it if I don't have to. And that's the reason you want to use founder, co-founder, or founding member, but then start divvying up the titles when it's appropriate. And just know in the future, if your startup is successful, you're probably going to have a shuffle and go there. So again, don't worry about the titles, too much. More importantly, worry about the roles and responsibilities and how decisions are made, how there is execution in terms of process. So when a decision is made, who does it go to, et cetera. And that's like a delegation matrix. That's far more important than who has titles. So that's my advice. So next, how do you find a good co-founder? Let me tell you, one of the biggest reasons a startup can fail is because co-founder chemistry. So co-founders get there, they don't like it. I've had multiple startups as an advisor in the startups.com accelerator community shut down literally in the last few weeks because co-founders just haven't been able to get along and they don't have chemistry, different things. And so they're not executing and what have you. So in the next video, we're going to talk about all the ins and outs, all the nuances that you want to be thinking about when it comes to finding the right co-founder and managing the co-founders. Stick around. Part 2 coming up. I'll see you in the next video.